Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnor Kabir, and I eat Chex Mix. This week we talk about how sometimes you can't do anything and you should just get on the floor and give up because that's all there is to do. These intros are just getting better and better. So, FIFA is happening right now, and for those of you like me who don't go outside and do nothing other than slap a keyboard all day, then FIFA is the World Cup, which happens every 4 years, and it is the big soccer thing. Like the Super Bowl for football, but this is the World Cup for also football, but the right kind of football. Screw you, America. Now, when you're watching soccer, or any sport really, you get pretty invested into a team and or a player, and when they score, you get pretty excited. When the other team scores, you get really loud and not excited. Overall, there's a lot of yelling involved, and that's why I hate sports. I don't like too loud of things like that. But it's really natural to get highly emotionally invested into a team, and when they lose, you feel your heart break. And when they win, you feel your heart soar, or whatever the opposite of break is. And all of this happens when you actually, without you actually ever touching a soccer ball, football, basketball, baseball, or whatever ball in your life. Esports counts too, I suppose. So, but you get really invested and you care a lot, even though you're not the one on the field. Although you feel like it's your team, it's not your team. You're not on the team unless you are. If you are a professional athlete listening to this podcast, I'm impressed. Generally, you're probably not the one on the team. You're not the one on the field. You are not playing. I'm not telling you not to care, right? That's, by the way, this isn't me preaching about how sports are dumb. If they entertain you, that is awesome. I listen to people read scary stories on the internet, so, let's not yuck each other's yums here. The only reason I say all of this is because one thing that we all know, and something we've said on the podcast time and time again, is that life sucks. Life is garbage and mean and rude, and whenever it offers you lemons, there's a 50% chance that it kicks you in your lemons as well. Life is a jerk and the mother of all psychopaths. I have yet to meet someone as sadistic as life is, but this episode is about when life throws a curveball and you get really upset about it, even though you're not the one life is throwing the curveball, when you are simply an emotionally invested spectator, someone that is ultimately unaffected by the outcome of the situation outside of emotional damage because you're so invested. The example for this episode and the inspiration for this episode is a situation my friend recently went through. They recently had a bit of a relationship scare. They said something that was interpreted as insensitive and they weren't sure why, and they were worried if they were going to get broken up with. They've had a history of catastrophizing, and although they had a reason to be worried, it was a reasonable reason, or for sure, their mind is a very worst possible outcome oriented. They're listening to this episode, and you know that's true. It ended up okay. Best wishes. They're fine. They're probably, like I said, they're probably listening. Big shout out for green lighting the use of your story. Anyways, of course, they apologize and did their best to talk to all of the offended parties. However, after that apology, whilst waiting to see if forgiveness was going to be granted or not granted, they were really, really worried, on the verge of a breakdown, which is when they called me their favorite jerk. And of course, they were pretty scared and worried. They were filled with more cortisol than an astronaut having a malfunction in space. Speaking of astronauts, by the way, did you see the picture we got of Titan, one of Saturn's moons? It's a super blurry picture from the JWS telescope. We might be able to skip Mars and go to this puppy instead. Scientists were very excited about the clouds on the top of the bad boy and then the weird white haze at the bottom. But this picture looks like a blurry picture of like Pangea Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks like that yellow green thing. Like that looks like land. That looks like there's land on there, grass and greenery and stuff, that there might be life on there. And that's super cool and wild. It might be that we have another Earth sitting in the Goldilocks zone right here in our own solar system. That's wild. I mean, we've looked at Titan before and we've always been interested, but this like raw image of just like actual image, again, it's not very clear, but which is weird. We get such beautiful pictures of galactic galaxies 50 billion miles away, way more than 50 billion miles. 50 bajillion light years away, but then we can't take a clear photo of a goddamn moon. It's Saturn's moon, but it's probably because it's really close and the telescope was made to see things far away. So I mean, it took a picture, but it wasn't made. The focal length, whatnot, lenses are crazy and wild and whatever. Oh, it wasn't just JWS. I think it was Kern or something. There's another telescope in Hawaii that they also used. So who knows? I would like a solid picture to see if that's like actual, just like land and grass, because then we don't have to ask, are there living things? Plants are living things. If there's grass everywhere, there's life on the moon. It's not a planet. It's Saturn's moon. Anyways, super exciting stuff. My friend, super worried with the reason. I mean, who wouldn't be? But while they were trying to hold themselves together and kept trying to say, I shouldn't be worried. I wish I could just not care. And they themselves recognized that their worrying was unproductive. It simply did nothing. They did their part by talking about it, which was doing their best. The outcome, the effect, like we've talked about karma before on the podcast, the effect is not in your control. Merely the causes are in your control. So, and at the end of the day, the point here is that sometimes you simply cannot do anything. You got an interview, you studied for it, you gave it your all. Whether or not you get accepted isn't in your control. You mustered up the courage to ask someone out. Whether or not you get a yes is out of your control. You made a podcast for 2.5 years. Whether or not it goes well is out of your control. Kind of. Now, all of these things are things that most people will worry about, and it makes sense. You want something to happen, and you don't know if it will happen. That's something to be worried about. However, you don't have control anymore. It's out of your hands once you've done your part. All you can do is get on the floor and give up. Lay there and stare at your ceiling and contemplate your life choices, because God knows that you shouldn't have chosen electrical engineering as a major and should have just gotten on a bus to who knows where and never looked back. I definitely am not speaking from experience. But yes, that's life sometimes. Yes, this podcast has episodes where we talk about how you have a lot you can do, and we talk about how your life is your responsibility and whatnot. But at the end of the day, sometimes you can do nothing except go with the waves, because in life, you're not driving, you're sailing. You don't get to ride down a simple highway while playing Dodge car. You're sailing across the ocean playing Dodge boat while you are at a complete mercy of the sea known as life. There is no end, there is no set destination. We all just try our best to act like we know where we're going, when we really don't at all. This episode is not going to hit time, and that is bad. So, and we also try our best, but fail miserably when we try to seem like we're not worried. That's why you should worry. It's fine. Yes, I talk about vairagya and acceptance, and don't be worried. Be a stoic man that is weathered by no storms, or woman. And of course, that's the perfect solution. If you can do that, awesome. That is what you should strive towards, to be like Marcus Aurelius. The problem is that very few people can do that. And the only thing worse than being a complete worrywart is hating the fact that you're a complete worrywart, especially while you're worrying. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone. It just creates pain and more turbulence in the ocean waves. So what do? We worry, we be scared, we have that cortisol running through our body like it's finals week, which, when you're listening to this, it is indeed finals week. However, we not only worry and be scared, we acknowledge the fact that we are worried. We acknowledge the fact that we are scared. We acknowledge the fact that we have no control and we don't know who in God's name is steering the ship and where it's going. Don't let this impede your function. Do your best to do your best. My friend, for example, had to go to work that day. They were stressing their face off, and I told them they should still try and go to work. Yes, when you're stressed, you probably won't function as highly. Definitely won't function as highly. But at the end of the day, again, we are just doing the best we can to do the best we can. The secret here is that in noticing your worry and stress and anguish and acknowledging all of those things, you will be getting a step closer to that stoic, not weathered by any storms mindset, though you cannot expect that or desire that, because then you'll never get it. It's a tricky little slippery snake, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, that's all I have for the script, and I'm only at 10 minutes. So either I make this a super short episode, literally going to be like 8 minutes when I cut it all down, or I just say stuff for 10 minutes. I don't know. Podcast has been a little bit less motivating since I've been focusing so much on the narration channel, and that's been doing well. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to stop the podcast. It's definitely something to consider, or at least be significantly more inconsistent. Um, that might happen soon. If you're a consistent podcast listener, beware. Um, what is there to talk about? I could, I mean, I can talk more about narrations and the process, or I can talk more about um future stuff. Not future stuff exactly. I got winter break coming up soon. I'm just gonna be narrating my balls off until my voice gives out on me. But yeah, I don't know how much interesting things I have to say. We'll have to think of something. Let's read this stupid outro first and then we'll think of something. If you want to leave here, you know what? That's understandable. So Pofu dropped an album. I still haven't watched anime, but that album by Pofu, it wasn't bad. And there's also this new dude I've been listening. I just recently listened to. I don't know what his artist. I already forgot his artist name. It's weird, but the song is called. You know what? Let's pull it up. It's not like anyone's here anymore. Uh, like they were here in the goddamn first place. Am I right? Let's see. Oh, Smithereens by Joji. I don't know if I talked about that last week, but I just noticed that that came out a while ago. But yes. Anyways, okay. Endie, and his song "Cross My Mind" is really, really, really good. I like that one. It has a sort of Christmassy vibe, honestly, and I really, really enjoy that. So that's going on in the music world. I still haven't watched anime. That's not gonna happen today. Today I have to edit this puppy, and then uh, I gotta attempt my EMAG homework, and I also want to finish my narration that will be out on Thursday, which you should absolutely listen to. It's going to be like a 30-40 minute one, and then there's a 10-minute one going up on Tuesday. So yeah, I'll be yeah, when you're listening to this, two narrations out. They'd Go Crazy When They Touched Me, which came out on Tuesday, and then there is When I Was a Kid, My Grandmother Took Me Fairy Spotting, which came out on Thursday, which if you're listening to the audio version, that was yesterday. If you're listening to the video version, that was a couple days ago, like 4 days ago, 3 days ago. But yes, those are both pretty good. They'd Go Crazy When They Touch Me is a short but sweet one. And When I Was a Kid and My Grandmother Took Me Fairy, that story is just so good. It is very, very, very good. And I'm working on the music right now. I'm halfway through editing, like I just said, and I made a good amount of mistakes in that one. So I have 40 minutes. I'm at 20 minutes, and I have 20 more minutes left to edit. But that'll probably cut down by like at the very least 5 minutes. So it'll probably end up being a 35-minute story, maybe 33 minutes if I really messed up that much. It actually might be a little bit shorter than that because I have an afterword, and then there's a few things going on. So anyways, I if you've listened this far, you are an avid listener of my content. So I would recommend you go listen to that. Unless you're my friend who told me that listening to my voice speak those stories or narrate those stories is too funny for you, and you can't do it because it's too funny and you can't take me seriously. Screw you. You know who you are if you're watching this. But yeah, the audio design is going to be pretty good on that one. Most effort is going into narrations right now. YouTube video I have recorded, but it's probably going to be on hiatus for a bit. Narrations will hopefully be increasing in both quantity and hopefully quality over break. Oh, I got a new interface, by the way. So if I'm a little bit louder or clearer, that's because I have a new interface, and that's why I was able to put the big boy back on to the microphone. The big this is not a pop filter, windscreen. Put the big windscreen back onto the microphone, so hopefully that has a nice sound to it, which it should. So, because I really liked it. I just didn't want to do it because I didn't have enough gain on the other interface, but this one should have enough gain that it's not an issue, and I'm going to be narrating a story right after I finish recording this bad boy. So, yeah, I have 5 more minutes left. Let's go through my narration process if you're interested in that. I don't know, I can't really... Sometimes you can't do anything. We've talked about this a good amount through Karma and so many other things. So you can hear more about it in past episodes. For now, though, one person was interested in my narration process. So I will just give it here for anyone still listening for God knows why. If you're listening because I have a nice voice, then you can hear me talk about anything. So here's my narration stuff. So it starts with go find a story on either creepypasta.com. I have to find more from creepypasta.com. I'm going to be looking at creepypasta.com next week for some stories that hopefully I'll be able to get permission for. But that's the second step, getting permission. I find a story, I'll either read it completely through. Some of them are really good and really gripping and I really like, and I'll read it all the way through. Other times I'll skim it, I'll look at how many upvotes it has or how well it's rated. And if it's rated well, then I know, okay, people like this story, it must be good. So I'll just give it a quick skim to see what I'm looking at, what the characters are looking like, what the voices are looking like, what the sounds are gonna look like. And then if I enjoy that, I will go to the author, and I will say, "Hey, I'm Mastro. I just started narrating. I ran across your story name, and I would love to narrate it. I just started. I'm a college student, and I'm not yet monetized, so I can't pay you. So you're completely cool to refuse." And then I give them that. Most of the time, they say yes. I have one person that hasn't. They kind of ghosted me yesterday, which is a little bit sad. I'll follow up with them today, but other than that, generally people say yes. They're really nice, and they don't mind that I can't pay them, because it's not like I just don't want to. It's just that I can't. When I start making money, which would be like $10 per video, maybe less than that, because YouTube takes a 45% cut. But maybe I'll give them $2.50, which because I'll be making like 5. So I don't mind giving them a good percentage when I start narrating. But yeah, anyways, that's later down the line. I have applied for monetization, so we're just waiting on that to happen. I have to contact customer service if they don't get back to me by like December 20 something, but it's December 4th, so they have like 20 more days. So they're good, I guess. But what else was it? Oh yeah. Okay, I get permission. After I get permission, I find time to sit down here at this table, and there's no camera and stuff. I turn my PC off because there's too much sound that comes from the fans and whatnot, and I narrate into my MacBook. So I'll read the story. I'll pick character voices while I'm going along. So sometimes I'll like read again. If I read the story, I know what the character is going to sound like, so I don't have to think about it too much. But if I only skim the story, then when I'm narrating the full thing, I'll go around and does it have this? The main character is either going to sound like this, which is my normal voice, or they're going to sound like this, which is my normal voice, but a little bit more timid. If the main character is a bit more shy, then I'll give them a bit more shyer of a voice and a little bit more withdrawn and scared and a little bit more soft spoken. Then there's female characters, which I can only do a handful of voices for them. I try my best, but it's only so good. Then there's also a deep voice, of course, just my normal, very deep voice. This is kind of my general voice. The narration voice sounds like this, but that's all. Yeah, right. So that's what it sounds like. And we can play around with it. Other times we'll do accents. I have a British accent that I use for The Devil's Confession, where I made the devil British because I don't know why, probably from listening to The Devil's Due by Vidith, and I gave him a bit of a British inflection. I tuned it down a bit. It wasn't too strong as it is now. I turned some of it down a bit. Ah, T, and R are kind of the letters that you have to play with when you're doing a British accent. So you just play with how you pronounce those things. I'll do a country voice. So a lot of redneck and sort of characters will sound like this. If they're sort of ragtag, street smart sort of characters, are going to sound like this. I have one sounding like this in the fairy story that's coming out, or that came out on Thursday. The villain, I guess, is going to sound like this because the author also kind of gave them a vocal speech like this. They said yes instead of you. So, I do that. A little bit of accent stuff. Talking slower or talking a bit more refined and formal. I don't want to go into the British one. That's kind of Vidith inspires a lot of my voices. Vidith 22. He's an incredible narrator. He has the best voice acting, I think, in the space for narrations. And of course, the Dark Somnium, Ronnie, who is just a absolutely incredible guy. He's just so cool. I have spoken to him like just a couple times, but he's so nice. He's just, I don't understand how someone can be as nice as that dude. He's just one of those people. But his audio design is production level and production quality, and he's an incredible inspiration and an incredible thing that I strive towards in making my character audio designing the background noises that you hear if you listen to the stories. Anyways, after I narrate character voices, blah blah blah, then for sitting down to edit, first I'll probably find a thumbnail and a visual placeholder for the video. There's a podcast version of the narration if you want to listen to that. But anyways, I'll find a thumbnail, visual placeholder, then I'll shove that into Final Cut, edit that out a little bit because I just add a few little flares to it to make it look somewhat nice, add a little nice timer to the bottom. Then I do asset collection. Sometimes I'll skip this step, but I usually like to do it because it just lets me zone in a lot more when I'm editing and I don't have to leave the Final Cut window, which is not too hard to do. My workflow is really optimized for that stuff. But then so asset collection is like, oh, footsteps on concrete, footsteps on wood, footsteps on all the things. Finding screams if I need that, sirens if I need that. If I know there's certain sounds in the story, I'm going to go add them before I start editing. Of course, I'm always going to forget many of them. So I will end up having to go look anyway. So, but it just makes it a little bit quicker and streamline the process a bit more. As the more that I can minimize the distraction, the better. So I'll do asset collection and songs as well, music. There's a ton of music, all from, again, the Dark Somnium music. I use a ton of his music. And every story will usually have one or two songs. That's a minimum. I'm probably like the fairy story is probably gonna have like 5 or 6 by the end of it. Like it's probably not 5 or 6, probably gonna be 4 or 5. But it's a lot. Like I'll move between music. I have to play around with the music because I didn't make it, so I can't hit the raw file. So I gotta like do it by ear and try to mesh it together to make sounds so that drops happen when I want them to happen, etc. And once asset collection is done, which can take a couple minutes, can take a few minutes, who knows. Once that's done, then, we sit down, we edit. Once we edit, then I will get all the links together, get everything together, the description and whatnot, so I can just copy and paste it. Upload. I schedule for Tuesday, Thursday right now. That will probably increase over winter break. And yeah, that's kind of my sort of process for narrating the story. And once it's done, once it's published, the link gets sent to the author because I love my favorite part of the job right now is hearing or listening to author reactions. When an author comes back and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe my story could sound like this or be like this. It's such a wonderful feeling. As someone who writes myself, someone who does a lot of art myself, I understand what it's like, especially, honestly, these authors are pretty sick in that they can give their story to someone and trust me with it. I don't know how many of them listen to the things I've made before and how many of them just give it to me and say, I'd love to hear it and just like kind of roll the dice with it. I send them all my YouTube channel link when I ask them for permission so they can listen to my stuff and be like, oh, wow, this guy audio designs, he adds music, he does vocal stuff, like he adds a lot of stuff, like he tries really hard and he makes good stuff. I think my narrations are pretty solid. But I send them to him. If they look at that, if they listen to any of my things, then they'll expect that. But if they don't listen too much to my narrations, they will probably, like, some of them come back and like, wow, this is crazy. What the heck? For example, my sister's a sociopath. Then she had surgery. The author for that one, I gave him one of my stories while I was editing. I'm like, hey, you can listen to this one while I'm editing yours. And, here's a little taste of what it'll probably be or what it'll be similar to. He listened to it. He's like, wow, that was like really good. I wonder if mine will be like that. And then I sent it to him and he came back to me and he was like, first I sent him the link and he was like, no way, it being funny and stuff. Then he came back and he's like, I am speechless. That was incredible. That like, dude, he was so happy with it. And that was so exciting. The Devil's Confession as well. The author was like, so happy. He was whizzing out of his mind. He's like, wow, this is so good. He sent it to his mom and his mom loved it and he was telling me, bro, it was just so nice to hear that stuff. Because it's like, at the end of the day, again, it's like I don't do that much work at the end. It's really just listening and time for me. For them, they're writing the story. This is their creative baby, So to hand it to me and trust me with it, when they come back and say, wow, you've done an amazing job, it's like, what? Like, Of course, I get a lot of comments from really great people. I already have like consistent fans that I know will listen to every story, which is really cool. Like I'll see their names, like, oh, I know this one. Um, but they're always complimenting me, saying it's getting better and better, telling me great stuff and whatnot. And I get criticism here and there, mostly pronunciation. But I get a lot of people telling me I'm doing great, and that's awesome. But when the author says it, like when the author validates that I did a good job, I'm like, why? Because especially because I can't pay them. So like if I paid them, I would care a lot less because I don't need their validation as much. I paid them, they got what they needed. But when I don't pay them, when they listen, and they say this is a great job, like I feel like I made I paid my side of the debt for them allowing me to use and narrate and bring their story to life in an audio format. So anyways, I think that's gonna be all. So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for listening. Hit 26 minutes. Yeah, I will talk at you next week. Much love. I don't know if I may. That probably won't happen. Never mind. Anyways, much love. Give up. I'll see you or I will talk at you next week. Perhaps. Again, I have to really think about whether or not I want to do this podcasting. You'll probably get like a one last hoorah episode from me saying, hey, it's going to get a lot more inconsistent from here. But for now, I will talk at you next week. Much love. Give up again. Again, I'm telling you to give up here. Peace.